On the 15th of January 2023, Yeti Airlines Flight 691 took off from Kathmandu's Triphuvan International Airport at around 10:30 a.m. It was a domestic flight headed for the Pokhara International Airport, located roughly 124 miles or 200 kilometers west of the takeoff location. Things started off just as everyone hoped, with the plane taking off, climbing, cruising, and even descending without any issues. And as it was about to land at the Pokhara airport, one of the passengers started live streaming on Facebook from within the cabin. This passenger was a 25-year-old Indian man named At.Sanu Jaiswal. He was an adventurous young man who loved nothing more than exploring new places with his friends and experiencing their beauty firsthand. This time he had traveled to Nepal as a tourist with 3 of his close friends, and after enjoying Kathmandu to its fullest, the 4 of them were headed to Pokhara to experience paragliding. He was excited for the upcoming adventure and wanted to share this moment with his entire social circle, which is why he started streaming. What none of his viewers knew, however, was that this was going to be the last time they would see Sanu alive. Because just a minute after he started streaming, the situation took a terrifying turn as the camera became disoriented and the laughter turned to screaming. What followed was an extremely loud explosion. Somehow the phone stayed intact and continued streaming everything to Sanu's friends and family. But all they could see at this point was nothing short of horrific, with the entire camera feed getting covered in raging flames, and worst of all, the screaming suddenly coming to a halt. Something had gone horribly wrong, and it wasn't long before people found out exactly what. Flight 691 had somehow crashed into the riverbank a few hundred meters away from the airport. The crash also caused the remaining fuel to ignite, so by the time the rescue workers arrived on the scene, there was nothing left. The crash and the resulting fire had taken the lives of the 4 crew members and the 68 passengers. Sanu was among these casualties, as he unknowingly recorded his own final moments with no idea of the tragedy that was about to unfold. The only silver lining in this accident was that the plane barely missed the populated area right next to the river, which would have likely doubled if not tripled the losses. As for how things went so horribly wrong when the rest of the flight had been relatively smooth, a months-long investigation concluded that it was mostly due to human error. You see, the flight was originally supposed to land on runway 30, but for some unknown reason the pilot requested to land on the indirect runway 12. Now, the co-pilot, Anju Kariwada, was under training at the time, so it's possible the pilot requested the alternative route to teach her how to land at an awkward angle. Unfortunately, while the plane was turning, she misinterpreted a command and accidentally switched both engine propellers to the feathered position. This resulted in the engine stalling, the plane losing control, turning over, and crashing into the riverbank. Put simply, a single unfortunate mistake cost the lives of dozens of people and uprooted the lives of hundreds of family members. On June 16, 2013, 29-year-old Yevgeny Titov noticed a demolition happening near his work in Lipetsk, Russia. He was on his lunch break and had plenty of time to admire the work being done, so he took out his phone and started recording the demolition. Unfortunately, watching this demolition was about to become the worst decision of his life. Now, I should mention that Yevgeny was being as cautious as he could. He was standing at least twice as far from the building being destroyed as the 2 men in front of him. Yevgeny was also standing off to the side, since given the demolition method, the debris looked like it was going to fall towards the excavator. Tragically, that is not what happened. As the excavator pulled the wall beyond its tipping point, it didn't detach cleanly and rotated mid-air, sending massive bricks and other debris hurling toward Yevgeny. And while the men standing nearby were nearly missed, Yevgeny wasn't so lucky. He was thrown to the ground by flying debris, with the impact leaving him critically wounded while others rushed over to help. Paramedics were called and rushed him to the hospital. Sadly, it was too late. Yevgeny had suffered multiple complex fractures, damaged organs, and serious brain trauma. He passed away shortly after reaching the hospital, leaving his wife and 3-year-old daughter behind, all because he wanted to watch a building being demolished from what he believed was a safe distance. The company in charge of the demolition was charged with criminal negligence for failing to establish an effective perimeter around the worksite, with the video Yevgeny captured serving as a crucial piece of evidence. However, no legal penalty could rewind time or erase the damage that had already been done. 23-year-old Helen Wendy Nyabuto moved from Kenya to Canada on a 10-year study visa when she was just 20 years old. By 2022, she was close to completing her education while also working as a nurse and a personal support worker in the Toronto area. Things were going well for Helen, but things took a tragic turn in August of 2022 when a single accident wiped out everything she had worked so hard to build. She was hired as a personal support worker by someone living in the small town of Chatsworth, Ontario. She decided to rent a room in the only motel in Chatsworth to accommodate this job and started living there. The place wasn't too shabby, but the thing that caught Helen's eye was the motel's outdoor swimming pool. So on August 8, she found enough free time to go for a swim while also live streaming her experience on Facebook. She had the pool all to herself, and it was every bit as peaceful and relaxing as she'd hoped. However, just as she was starting to enjoy swimming, disaster struck. About 10 minutes after getting into the pool, she decided to swim toward the deep end. Unfortunately, just seconds after entering the deep end, she lost control and began drowning. She desperately called for help with the little air she had left. Tragically, there was no one to hear her. After struggling in the water for nearly a minute, Helen lost the fight and passed away just outside the range of her phone's camera, which continued streaming everything live on Facebook. Her last words stating, "Let me enjoy some water," took on a much darker meaning as her live viewers waited for someone to notice Helen. However, she remained unnoticed for nearly 3 hours until 2 other guests finally arrived at the pool and made the heartbreaking discovery while the live stream was still going. But these guests couldn't even believe what they were looking at first.
Why is there just a dead person in the line?
I know, that scared the when I got in. I think it's a poodle or something.
That looks so realistic.
I know. I got in and I was like, is it somebody? Walk over there. Just walk over there.
Dead? Like, what if it's actually somebody dead? Because I'm not even trolling, that looks way too real.
They eventually realized the truth and immediately contacted the motel management. By the time someone checked on Helen, she was long gone. The livestream helped prove that this was nothing more than a terrible accident, though that did little to soften the blow for her family. As her father stated, "I watched the video, I cried, it's terrible." What made the tragedy even more devastating was that Helen was the sole breadwinner for her family. Without her, they couldn't even afford to bring her body home to Kenya. Fortunately, when the story made headlines, the internet came together and raised over 66,000 Canadian dollars to cover her funeral expenses and help her family in their time of need, giving a somewhat bright ending amongst an absolutely tragic situation. Armin Schmieder was a 28-year-old Italian man with a love for extreme sports. He originally started with skydiving and performed countless jumps across Europe. But as time went on, he started getting bored of skydiving and wanted to try something even more extreme. So, sometime in 2015, he switched from skydiving to wingsuit base jumping. Learning a brand new sport, especially one as dangerous as wingsuit base jumping, was quite risky. But Armin managed to pull through and became quite proficient at it in just 1 year. What he didn't know, however, was that his luck was about to run out. On the 26th of August 2016, Armin climbed to the summit of Mount Kangersteg in the Swiss Alps. On this day, he wanted to livestream his adventure, which started with him putting on the equipment and getting ready for the jump. But since he didn't have any streaming-capable action camera or a secure mount for his phone, he came up with an alternative solution, where once he was fully geared up, he told his viewers, "Today you fly with me," and put the phone in his pocket. All his viewers could see now was the darkness inside of his pocket, with some light bleeding through the fabric. But the audio was still clear enough to understand what was going on, like Armin counting down and making the jump.
Fly. Hi.
Things seemed to be going as expected. However, about 20 seconds after he made the jump, his phone captured the sounds of Armin screaming, crashing into the mountainside, and rapidly rolling down the steep terrain. The fall ended with Armin landing in the middle of a cow pasture, now being completely silent. His viewers quickly contacted the authorities, who spent the next few hours looking for him. Unfortunately, by the time they found him, it was already too late. Armin had succumbed to his injuries and passed away. And while the Swiss authorities never released the true cause of his death, whether it was equipment failure or pilot error, at the very least, he died doing what he loved. Tevye Pustiu was a 29-year-old pop singer in Romania. He was described as one of Romania's rising music stars and was building a bigger following with each passing year. Unfortunately, before he had the chance to make it big, his career was abruptly cut short on August 15, 2020. He was riding through the city of Ploiești in a car with his wife behind the wheel. And as they were making their way through the city, Tevye decided to livestream his travel from his phone. This stream was just him smoking, listening to music, smiling, and having plain fun. But then, a few minutes into the stream, his wife stopped the car at a crossing of sorts. She looked both ways before driving forward, only for the stream to suddenly cut off, with Tevye screaming in horror being the last thing viewers witnessed. As it turned out, the two were crossing a railway line, and while his wife did look both ways, she somehow missed the train barreling towards them. By the time they noticed, it was already too late. Their car was wrecked completely, resulting in Tevye tragically losing his life. What's crazy is that just a month before this crash, Tevye made a Facebook post stating, "One day the wrong train will take you to the right destination." His wife miraculously survived, but sustained several critical injuries. She was rushed to the hospital and put on life support, though I wasn't able to find any reports on what happened to her after that. The now tragic final memory Tevye left to his fans was him simply having fun and dancing to music. Gwynfor Beach is a white sand beach just north of Sennen Cove in West Cornwall, England. Because you have to go through some winding roads and sand dunes to get there, lots of people drive by that area without even realizing it's there. But for a YouTuber named Jacob Cockle, this was home. In 2011, Jacob started a channel called Whirlpool Hitman, where he would upload footage of his adventures swimming in whirlpools and doing other extreme stunts such as cliff jumping, extreme surfing, and cave exploration. As of today, the channel has close to 150,000 subscribers. According to his family, Jacob lived his life on the edge, and his stunts often earned him covering shots in big surfing magazines and even prizes from the Sunday Times and National Geographic. In some of his whirlpool videos, Jacob would often throw stuff at a vortex and record random objects getting sucked down by the powerful currents. But in most of his videos, he would actually swim in the whirlpools himself, which is extremely dangerous as the swirling currents could easily pull a person under in seconds. On May 28, 2013, the whirlpool that made Hale Estuary famous surfaced again, as it did a few times a year. And Jacob was determined to swim in it to capture some cool-looking footage for his channel. That day, he ran up to his friend and artist David Rain's house and asked him to film him as he swam around the whirlpool. David had collaborated with Jacob in the past, and seeing how excited his friend was, he agreed. Just like in the rest of his YouTube videos, Jacob brought a prop to the harbor to make his video more eye-catching to his viewers, and for this particular video, he decided the prop would be a horse mask. For several minutes, Jacob swirled around the vortex's edge, letting the current carry him in a circle without dragging him down. At one point in the video, he mentions to his friend that swimming in a whirlpool was a lot like surfing because it was all about flowing with the currents. After filming for about 25 minutes, David mentions that they probably have enough footage and tries to get Jacob to come out of the water.
I reckon you got enough there.
Riding the current of it with your body.
Are you?
Yeah, it's really similar to surfing. Just flowing with it. That's pretty scary.
You got enough?
I should really make the most of it. I don't know what else to do.
Instead of getting out, Jacob asked David to hand him his stick-mounted GoPro so he could capture one last bit of underwater footage before calling it a day. A few seconds after he dived down, David started to worry as Jacob hadn't come back up to the surface. When he yelled his friend's name and received no response, he ran to the other end of the quay where the water flowed into a pool. That's when he saw his friend face down in the water and knew it was too late. Jacob was gone. In March of 2014, Jacob's last footage was uploaded to YouTube with the haunting caption at the end of the video reading, "Live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever." At age 28, Jacob lost his life doing what he loved most. His funeral was attended by dozens more people than the church could accommodate, and they all gathered to celebrate his life and remember him as the fearless adventurer he was. A year after his passing, the harbor was renovated, and the whirlpool that had captivated Jacob and ultimately taken his life disappeared forever. High on Life was a pretty popular YouTube channel with over 600,000 subscribers at its peak. Starting in 2011, the High on Life crew uploaded more than 400 videos showing their audience what it was like to make a living as full-time travelers. From exploring beautiful tropical paradises, to cliff jumping, to diving sunken ships, High on Life always uploaded really cool videos of the crew's adventures across the globe. Living life by their motto, "If you can, you should," embracing life to the fullest was at the heart of everything they did. As mentioned in their channel description, part of their mission was to inspire their audience to get out and explore the world. For several years, the High on Life channel grew quickly, with travel content being released frequently. But on July 3, 2018, a tragic accident would forever change the lives of the 10 team members and their audience. That day, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police reported that 3 people had been swimming in one of the pools at the top of Shannon Falls when they suddenly slipped and fell into a pool about 100 feet below. Shortly after, the bodies of the 3 victims were confirmed to belong to Riker Gamble, Alexei Lyak, and Megan Scraper. Riker and Alexei were High on Life members, while Megan was Alexei's longtime partner. Tragically, it was confirmed by the police that Riker and Alexei were trying to rescue Megan, who had slipped into fast-moving water before the 3 of them fell 100 feet. Through tears, the remaining members of the High on Life crew shared a touching goodbye message for Riker, Alexei, and Megan on their YouTube channel, remembering them as the kind, outgoing, life-loving people they were. Throughout the investigation, there were rumors that the 3 of them had been filming a video at the time of the accident, but this wasn't 100% confirmed. In the aftermath of the tragic incident, a GoFundMe page was started to cover the funeral expenses, raising close to 30,000 Canadian with the help of their loyal audience. After uploading 5 tribute videos, the High on Life crew continued uploading videos of their travel adventures, honoring their friend's legacy. The last video they uploaded was 2 years ago.